Well, tonight we interview the author of an autobiography entitled Proud to be a Prostitute, which is a frank, uncensored and sometimes shocking story of sex and scandal from the pen of Ruby Gobbler. Now tell me, Miss Gobbler, how long have you been a professional prostitute?
Oh, I've been a professional prostitute all my life, dear. But I'd like to mention this. People talk about prostitutes, but really, everybody's a prostitute, you know. I mean, we all sell ourselves for something or other. You're selling yourself for a living. You're giving your personality. Well, I gave what I had to give, dear. Everybody sells themselves in this world. The whole world's full of prostitutes. The whole world's a brothel, and all the men and women in it are merely prostitutes. So, I mean to say, this hypocrisy that you hear about prostitutes living a terrible life, we're all selling ourselves, and we've all got the right to do so.
I see. Well, that's an unusual outlook, but I think I see what you mean. And you describe in detail in your book some unusual and bizarre sexual encounters, which sounds so eccentric one wonders about their authenticity.
Oh, well, if you don't believe me, love, you only have to come round to one of my places and see the goings on. I mean, people think you exaggerate, but you should see the things some of these people want you to do to them. There was one man, I didn't have enough room to mention this in my book. He wanted to stand in the middle of the room with no clothes on at all, and he had an erection, and I had to throw donuts into, you know where, dear.
Well, they ring donuts.
Of course, dear. But the trouble is I'm a bit short-sighted, so I kept missing and spent 2 hours trying to get these donuts round you know where, and I had arm ache. I mean, I'm used to using my arms, dear, but this was terrible, and in the end I said to him, listen, we've run out of donuts. I said, I just can't possibly go on. But he gave me 50 quid for my trouble, so I didn't mind. And he told me I could keep the donuts as well, so I gave them to the woman next door, dear.
Yes, I expect they sell them in some of the shops as well.
What donuts?
After they've been used. I've seen some of these shops in Soho. Some of these baker shops.
Those shops in Soho are the ruination of business, my dear. When the girls were on the street down Soho, there was no trouble at all. There's these sex shops opened up, people are going in there, they're more and more frustrated to see all these things, sex aids, dildos, things like that. Now that's not sex, dear. That's just artificial aids. I mean, there's nothing like the real thing. And it's people like me who can provide a service like that.
Yes, well, I don't think I'll buy any donuts in those Soho shops anyway after what you've just told me.
Oh, you were talking about donuts, were you? I'm sorry.
And there was something in your book, I believe, there was an experience about a client where you had to get into a coffin or something.
Oh, that was hilarious.
A necrophiliac or something.
Oh, my dear, I did a good job. I had some pills and some gin in me that night because I didn't know what was going to happen to me for the life of me. I was standing on the corner of Berwick Street about 3 o'clock one morning, pissing down with rain. Oh, sorry, am I allowed to use?
Oh, it's okay.
Oh, yes, it's the police of society now.
Yes,
well, it was raining like blooming cats and dogs. I was standing on the corner, and this Rolls Royce drove up and said, are you doing a bit of business tonight? I said, well, if you don't mind, I've got a place round the corner if you'd like to come back. He said, oh, no, he said, you must come round to my place because I've got some specialised things there. So I thought, oh, that sounds a bit, you know what, but you know me, dear. I always take a chance, dear. I'll do anything once, twice if I like it. So I went back to his place, and he opened his bedroom door, and instead of a bed in the middle of the room, there was this coffin. It was open with drapes on the side, brass handles. I said, oh, somebody died. Or were you a funeral undertaker? He said, oh, no. He said, I want you to get in the coffin and pretend to be dead. And I want to be on top of you and, you know.
Well, it's extraordinary.
Yeah. So, not only had I get into the coffin, but I had to put all this white flour on my face to make me look more death-like. which isn't me because I like lots of rouge, things like that. But I put this flower on my face, looked like a ghost. I must have looked like death anyway because I was wondering what was going to happen to me. I thought, for the life of me, dear, I might end up in this coffin for good down in Brompton Cemetery.
Yes, it must have been quite frightening.
Oh, it was, but I thought, on the other hand, I thought, well, I was desperate for the money. I was 2 weeks behind with the rent. So I thought, well, take a chance, girl. That's what life's all about.
And you claim in your book to have entertained some top names of the establishment.
Oh,
my brothel in Old Compton Street.
My lips are sealed about the names of the people I could mention now. People like Christine Squaler and this other person who writes exposés about these politicians and top establishment people. My dear, I've seen some of the most prominent people in the land go through the brothel in Old Compton Street where I was operating from in the 60s. Now we have people from the House of Lords, people from the Church of England, and the hierarchy of the Church of England, let me remind you.
Really?
There was people from television, people from radio, and people from all walks of life, even royalty.
Oh, well, we can't mention any names, of course, on this programme.
Of course.
I'm sure you wouldn't dream of doing
I
such a thing.
wouldn't dream of mentioning
But
that.
what do you say to people like Mrs. Mary Whitehouse and Lord Longford, who have been pressing to have your book banned?
Well, I feel sorry for people like that because they're sexually frustrated. That's their problem. They go on about sex, too much sex on television. The whole problem with them is they're not getting enough for themselves, and they see other people having a bit of enjoyment, and they try to stop them from having it. Now, what harm do I do in my business? I write a book about what happened to me in my life. Other people do the same. So why should she object to my book and not, say, Cliff Richard's life story?
Yes, I see. And do you belong to any trade union? I understand there's a collective of
yes,
prostitutes.
I belong to the English Collective of Prostitutes, a very interesting organisation to belong to, because before I joined the English Collective of Prostitutes, I must admit I was a very, very scatterbrained girl. I wasn't, I knew all about life and things like that, and birds and the bees, but I wasn't sure about what life was all about and our roles in society. But since I joined the English Collective of Prostitutes, I've become very politically aware, and that's why I believe that prostitutes have a serious part to play in society. Because we serve a purpose, we serve a need to people, and regardless of what people like William Whitewash or Mary Whitelaw or Lord Longford say, it doesn't matter. It's people like us who keep people like rapists from attacking children. Since when there was women on the streets in the 60s around Shaftesbury Avenue, when I was a young girl, there was one on every corner, and there was no child molesting and no rapes. But now that's all you hear about these days, because the men can't have a bit of the other. And you must know yourself, everybody has to have a bit of nookie on the side. And if they can't get it, they get desperate. And when they get desperate, they commit atrocities.
And what intrigues me, though, about this trade union that's been set up is, what does it do? I mean, do you go on strike?
Well, we've considered taking strike action, but the thing is, you don't get the support from some of the other girls on the game, you see.
I mean, no one
We
pays
tried
your wages
talking
because you're in business yourself, really, so you'd be striking against yourself, wouldn't you? Unless you work for someone else.
Oh, well, you have to ask the head of the English Collective of Prostitutes about that. I'm not sure about the technicalities of it. All I know is I'm quite prepared to go on strike and withdraw my services if required. I'm quite prepared to go on a demonstration, but the trouble is some of the other girls on the game aren't, because they don't want to be seen on the television screen, and they don't want to be photographed by the police there. So I can quite understand their point of view, but I think unless we come out of the closets and come out of the brothels and stand up and be counted there, nothing will be done for us.
You actually met some members of the royal family.
Oh yes, I've entertained royalty on 3 occasions, but not at Buckingham Palace because of the security problem, of course. We all know what that entails. Oh yes, I've entertained the royal family. I was invited to a little cottage outside Balmoral, where I had to spend the weekend, and a certain person would come and have a little tete-a-tete with me.
Well, this has been a very interesting interview, Miss Gobbler, and you really got me interested. I'd like to do, I'd like to have some business, I think. Oh, I mean, you've really intrigued me, and you've really got me excited. And
Well, put your money where
what's your
your
charge? Oh yes, what do you charge?
Put your money where your mouth is,
Oh,
dear.
something.
Oh, lovely, dear. I was hoping you were going to ask.
How much do you charge?
Oh, I'll do it for nothing for you, love, because you look so lovely, dear.
I can really recommend Miss Gobbler. She's very good value.
Best blowjob in town, dearest.
And I can